Well met, lords and ladies, Jacob Butter speaking. A warm welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday, and a very bright one at that. But if you can see behind me, I'm fulfilling a promise that I made 2 weeks ago, which was to continue down this path during the Boardwalk Patrol saga, I suppose. Because last week we were in Hazelmere, it was kind of different, and I had several directions I could go in. One of which, of course, being up there behind me, or down there, or I guess ahead, or ahead in the other direction too. So up there in that direction, I've actually been there already, and that's because up in that direction is the car park, the second car park that I mentioned, the one that I didn't go to, that has been the subject of a bit of a discourse before I arrived here again. Because I didn't have in my Google Maps directory the location of this place saved, so I asked for it again, and that led to a whole thing about what 3 words and me for some reason describing which car park I went to, even though I definitely knew it was the short one, which we found out eventually. But yeah, so because of that, I had that plan already set to go. Admittedly, I didn't say that was my other objective, and so here we are now. The boardwalk is long behind us now. But yeah, I don't know if I've actually been in this direction, because normally whenever we would use that particular car park, we just went to the boardwalk and then continued along that. But in the spirit of uncharted territory, I'm going to see what's down in this direction, just like I did in Galicia, all the time. Now the other thing, of course, is that I'm not really sure what to talk about this week. Like, I've gone back and forth on different things, but to be honest, I did have plans this week, actually. I was going to meet up with a friend, but that friend went MIA, so was not able to complete the meetup, I suppose. And yeah, it was admittedly a very hasty, improvised plan. It's like, oh yeah, the weekend of the 7th. Let's watch a play or something. So I looked around and saw there was only like one play that would be like ideal for the pair of us. And like there was also supposed to be this like rotary duck race that was going on. That it was was early for me by YouTuber times. But I was thinking like, oh yeah, I'll suggest that idea as well, because that happens to be on the 7th. So yeah, had a day plan, but didn't end up going through. So most of it was me yet again doing catch up, partly doing catch up, but also some other stuff as well. We made good on a promise to record a Never Have I Ever video with the Quest Line characters. Oh look, more boardwalk. Looks like I'm going down here. Yeah, so we did that, and I can tell you that because even though my POV hasn't come out yet, it's been fully edited. It's just that by the time that I finished editing that yesterday, actually, it was already time to set up for stream. And again, I am still trying for the last, few weeks or so before I go to Spain to make sure I can keep that up, because I'm not sure what the situation will be with either, my schedule or the neighbours for that matter. And I'll also probably have to change the time at which I stream as well, because it's going to be, an hour later in Spain. So yeah, we'll have to probably push that ahead or something. And yeah, who really knows? Depends on like how many mornings I've got. So because of that uncertainty, it's like I'm getting I'm going through almost a bucket list of sorts, like my own personal bucket list, I suppose. Because obviously a lot of the stuff that I get like sent to me, of course, you know, as requests from you lots. Okay, let's look at this thing or look at this thing. And that's fine. I like seeing what everyone else is interested in and being able to offer my 2 cents about it and have people inexplicably listen. So that's all fantastic. But on the other hand, of course, it comes at the expense of the fact that there's some stuff I've been needing to get to for a number of years, and just always either forget or decide against in favor of something else. By all means, keep sending me things. I'm not saying don't do that. Just that now, this time, it's like, okay, I'm gonna reshuffle the priorities here, just for the sake of, doing what I'm doing. So, which means I finally got to go back to Not Your Average Girl last week and again this week, and that's been kind of interesting for me as well, because it's going into what, like, it's almost bordering on confirming like a fear of mine that I had, because this is a commonly known phenomenon with gacha. Something like imperfect comes along, and people focus on the fact that first of all, voice acted series, but also been heavily marketed, brand new channel, and it's fresh out the gate and all that stuff. And the visuals are of relatively high caliber. Once you actually break them down properly and know what you're looking for, that becomes a little bit more dubious. But there you have it. I've been down that way before, so I'm going to go down this way, but I will also show you. I found this last time. Giant dragonfly statue. Not sure what that's about. There you have it. I'm sure there's a sign somewhere that indicates that. But anyway, we're going this way. So yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so that's nothing new, of course. I mean, if anything, it's happened with plenty of stuff. It's happened with Music Freaks, with Rabbit's Hole, etc., etc. Rabbit's Foot. I keep forgetting which one it is. Rabbit's Foot's a Mission Impossible 3, so probably not. And yes, I've seen a few of the Mission Impossible movies. Just trying to think about what I was saying. Ooh, storm brewing. I know it's going to be rain today. I've got my coat with me. But yeah. No, so it happens a lot with those kind of things, and because I'm so story focused, and I've seen a bunch of these things where the focus is on the artistry and then not the other way around. In fact, that's kind of what my philosophy was with a lot of gacha stuff, was that a lot of people do put the focus in the wrong area. My fear was that by revisiting Not Your Average Girl, having not seen most of it in 5 years apart from the first episode on like the individual Gacha Review channel that I have that's not updated in a long time. Yeah, that it was interesting because this is the first time I went back to see an episode that I hadn't seen in such a long time, and I do remember going through Not Your Average Girl rather quickly. In fact, about 5 years ago, and taking to it. On the basis of just how different and advanced it was, that overall of course, you know, the story and characters as well, but ultimately, you know, the visuals particularly helped with that. And my fear was that I had ended up doing the exact same thing with Not Your Average Girl that I had with all the other stuff. That was alleviated a lot by the, you know, I fell in love with a monster duology that was like consistent with, you know, Midori's evolution as a creator. But yeah, it's like particularly having my bond there for both of those situations actually, you know, helped to reinforce that you know, that this was somebody who was ahead of their time. And ultimately, you know, it's a case of I never thought this show was perfect. I never think that anything I watch is perfect anymore, because that's, you know, not any way to think about it. I think when you watch something as a child and you see something and you think like, oh, that's like a weird flaw or something, I don't like how they went through that. You're so used to being told what's right and wrong by, you know, the adults in your life that you just think like, oh, I guess I must be in the wrong. Which is probably a good thing about internet discourse, actually, that you're able to, you know, confirm that. That might explain a lot of the time why people are so eager to defend, like, you know, someone coming after like the minor flaws of one particular product of some kind. Like, I haven't had that experience at all, apart from a couple of Music Freaks bits. But it does put that into perspective, where it's like, you know, once you decide to like think for yourself, as far as you know, what kind of things that you're into and why, and how and like what stuff you actually think is good or not, then you're able to, you know, subjectively critique stuff. For years I blamed the nostalgia critic for making it so that I can't watch anything anymore without overanalyzing it, which is not entirely true. I'm able to do that, particularly when I'm not recording, unless something really strikes me. But actually, no, it was just that, you know, I wouldn't say I was at the right age. I was like 16 or something when I started watching Nostalgia Critic. It just happened to coincide. Makes me think about like the reactions that people used to do to AFML videos when I started doing my first ones, back when My Street was still, you know, like updating and airing and such. Speaking of which, I do want to do a reaction to the new like My Street One Last Time thing that came out a couple of days ago. That's all to do with how like, you know, what like the top 10 like best moments in My Street Season 1, like as chosen by, you know, the people. Should have been top 15 because 15 is a significant number in the AFML universe, but whatever. Don't know if I'll do that today because I've got other stuff to you know, concern myself. If I end up doing a stream today, then I'll have that upload. Actually, maybe not. Maybe I'll just premiere the Never Have I Ever video, because that way I'll be able to join BB for her stream, because Aiden wasn't there, and I kind of like, you know, blew them off yesterday as well, both of them, by not showing up there. Another mini boardwalk, but very tiny one this time. I need to angle this better. There you go. But yeah, I mean, so another reason I wanted to go back and revisit Not Your Average Girl was because I wanted to be able to give it like the actual full series analysis that I'd always wanted, and, you know, properly dissect it. Because again, I mentioned this in the video, but I don't remember a lot of specific things that happened apart from episode 10, which may or not be my favorite, you know. Like, Bob and I went back and forth on whether or not that was a sign or not. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, overall I will still say it is definitely one of the best, even to this day. And I enjoy the simplicity of it, like relative to the stuff that people have to like put into now. Maybe it's because all the stuff that Midori was doing, like I technically know how to do now. So if I wanted to, I could recreate Not Your Average Girl. You know, sort of how, you know, you see those like animators nowadays that will either recreate like a short from many years ago, or like do a collaboration with everyone. Like there was one that came out some time ago, which was to do with like something called like The Boys of Pimento University or something like that. That was there was like a full like 4 minutes episode of just these characters that apparently people found at the time to be as iconic in one go as the likes of, you know, Mickey Mouse, etc., etc., which is quite high praise considering what it was. And I'm not sure if I agree, having seen both versions, but that could just be me. But yeah, no people like do that stuff now. I could technically do it with Not Your Average Girl, but whether or not I would want to is the other question. It's like, well, I mean, you know, that's possible, but I'm just not looping around back to the back in the direction that the car park is mostly towards, because it is getting significantly colder. But yeah, yeah, I guess that's not what I want to say this week. I think I also wanted to talk about something I mentioned in the last episode about, like, you know, the philosophy of killing your darlings in, you know, in like media at large, and the emphasis on efficiency that we have nowadays. But before I do that, fear that I have, oh, that was the first drop of rain on my face. One of the fears that I had, I'm gonna get to shelter in a second, after that, is that if I had that reaction with Not Your Average Girl, or I potentially could have had that reaction with Not Your Average Girl, depending on how the rest of the series holds up, does that mean that some people had the same idea with the Mutant Girl? Because I clown on, you know, the visuals of the Mutant Girl season 1, you know, in like almost every chance that I can get. They are in fact atrocious, and I had no idea what I was doing, and that's why I used Midori stories as inspiration and as a bit of a guiding force to know which way to proceed and to improve. But ultimately, like, despite everything that I actually said, you know, other than Aphmau's sketches, which showed me that was possible to begin with, there were no series attempting what the Mutant Girl was attempting at the time it was attempting it. So I do wonder if even like on some, you know, microscopic degree, the early watchers of Mutant Girl season 1 from back in early 2019 were also, you know, enticed by, you know, whatever visual improvements there actually were, and by the voice acting, and that was what drew them in, rather than the quality of the show itself or the story. It makes me wonder, because like a lot of the people who stuck around today, like they will, particularly you know, the ones that will like quote moments or talk about things that have happened or make like jokes and references, tend to reference season 1. So I'm leaning towards that not being the case. But it's one of those things that I thought of today where I was like, huh, that's curious. Maybe that's something to bear in mind. I don't know. But so it's not really for me to say in that regard. I'm not out for people being like, oh, no, you know, this is the, you know, it's still amazing, don't doubt yourself. It's like, I mean, whenever it comes up to those just like doubts or something, it's like, well, I mean, I can't go back and change it now anyway. What I can do now is, of course, you know, continue to deliver, you know, what the far improved products that I'm making now, which means that I should definitely check in on how the progress is going with the editing of those videos, because I'm waiting on some of the editors and I haven't inspected that in some time. So I'm gonna drop a message on Discord, maybe before I go back home actually, so they have a chance to see it while I'm driving. Not that I'll be responding on a thread, because, you know, I don't want to crash, you know. So yeah. As far as like the other topic I was going to bring up today, the Kill Your Darlings one, about like how we value efficiency so much in storytelling. The one thing that I didn't really talk about in the video, where I specified that it was advice I got at university that I have reconsidered on the basis that sometimes character moments are not necessary, or, you know, visual moments are not necessary, but they're fun to see, and how I think that as long as it doesn't detract from either the pacing or the enjoyment or the anything of the story, they have a reason to stay in there. Whereas a meme that breaks your immersion, like in Not Your Average Girl episode 2, that should probably be taken out. If it's a nappy changing scene that is a very gross to behold and furthers nothing in the plot at the same time, then also another reason to remove something. If it's stuff like, even like My Shimmering Husband, which has so many scenes where nothing much happens at all, but they just repeat themselves and they drag out the pacing of the video, that is another example. But yeah, what I didn't mention, despite all of those things, was the concept of filler. And you know what? I'm gonna actually pause so I can put my coat on, probably get into some sheltered place, and I can actually continue talking. So, one moment, please. Okay, so that started to pour down much more quickly than I thought it was going to. So, we're gonna make this brief. What I was saying before about the where we value efficiency. Oh yeah, no, because coming to filler, because the concept of filler is one that you know, carries a lot of weight to it, and the perception, of course, is that it's, you know, just extra stuff added to, you know, pad the runtime, to fill up, you know, the length of something, or like a season order, or even potentially just a very short episode. Mostly synonymous with anime, but it happens like overall. I mean, even in shows like, for example, Star Versus, there's people who classify half the content as filler, then half as like the main plot. I mean, if anything, you know, the main plot to begin with kind of is just, you know, magical alien princess from another dimension living in the human world and getting up to the wacky antics that entails with a human best friend and fighting monsters. But of course, that gets, you know, that evolves later. But that was more the time people mentioned filler stuff to begin with. But yeah, it's an example of what people say is good filler. So what makes good filler in that case? I think it is just... I think when it's obvious, when it's not obvious that something is like dragging for the sake of it. You know, where it feels like, oh, this is something that's been inserted here, like the fake Namek saga of Dragon Ball Z, for example, where, you know, nothing gets forwarded there. Compare that, of course, to the Korin's training arc in Dragon Ball Classic, you know, actual Dragon Ball, and it's night and day, because that filler, because it wasn't in the manga, so it's classified as filler, that was designed because that way it's not just a case of, oh yeah, Korin just, you know, gives Goku the Ultra Divine Water and that's it. No, he actually has to earn it, and he has a chance in a totally not Mark has mentioned this, but as far as like, you know, in a very like underrated scene, that there is a moment where Korin is seemingly asleep and has the jug of water that Goku's supposed to take from him, and he has a chance to take it when he was sleeping, but decides against it, even though, you know, he knows he has only 3 days to complete the task. It's just simply not who Goku is. So he doesn't do that, and Korin was actually awake the whole time. It was a full test, but it just means stuff like that, which, you know, it gives you insight into the characters in that kind of way. Like, that to me, when filler actually like furthers something, it takes like an idea that maybe hasn't been fully developed or has yet to be explored, and goes forward with it. Garlic Jr. in Dragon Ball as well, you know. People are warming up to this one because it's one of the only times where the cast have to solve an issue without Goku being there. And that's significant. So yeah, one of those examples. They're all, I mentioned Dragon Ball a lot in that exchange, but it's, you know, one of those ones that's synonymous with there. And the other one's Naruto, but I don't really know enough about Naruto to really wade in on that discussion. But yeah, it comes to that stuff as well. Like in Gacha, we don't do too much in the way of filler, even though Aiden, who has been the most critical of filler in the past, has mentioned he would want to do it sometimes, but because of the fact that it takes so long for us as, you know, indie developers to make a project like that, that there's really like no time for that if you want to like get forward with the story, not in an efficient way, just in general, because people are, you know, waiting to see how that pays off. So that's why, you know, every scene counts. Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings, for example, you know, they have to like complete a bunch of stuff in every single scene because they only have a significant runtime, and they've got two books worth of content to cover in one singular movie. Yeah, that one's where Nostalgia Critic again said every scene counts. So sometimes it's impossible, but I feel like it is beneficial when it's like applied for a good purpose. And I guess also on the internet, we have no season orders. We have no specified runtime for the sake of, you know, ad breaks or quotas by a TV studio to complete. So any filler is kind of down to us, which I guess also gives credence to Aiden's complaints at times about that stuff. Because when we're the only people we're answering to, as like internet creators, then it reflects poorly when we choose to effectively waste others' time. So that's why the whole idea of like not detracting something makes sense there. Like the filler that I mentioned before, the bad filler, would be detracting from the pacing, for example. Even sometimes the character, if someone does something that is deliberately off character, or just the fact that they can't really like advance too much like character relationships, and if they do, they have to go back to status quo because they're following like a lot of the time existing source material. Again, internet developers, we can change what we want. That's not beholden to us. That's again another Dragon Ball issue. So that, I think that's it really. That's what I wanted to say. So that's why you know, the word filler, again, given a lot of power, tossed around, you know, very, very harshly, but yet sometimes can carry some merit to it, because sometimes you just gotta, you know, take a step back. Like in Gravity Falls, for example, where there's, you know, it's like, oh my goodness, we found this laptop, where it's, you know, like to find out the identity of the author of the journals. What are we going to do next episode? Have a mini golf tournament. And yet, you know, because everyone has fun with that, few people took issue with it, for example. I guess also the fact that it was, you know, televised weekly originally also gives it a degree of separation between those two. I guess another point as well, that people who had to deal with a lot of filler stuff, had to deal with it on TV as episodes that they couldn't choose to skip or shuffle around, and in the age of streaming that's become less of a problem, which I guess means there's less of an incentive in order to do that. But then again, TV studios being TV studios, they need to do certain things. Like a sense of like earning money. They just need to, keep to their model, otherwise they will fall apart. But yeah, it's a very different thing. It's curious how many times I've come back to the idea of mentioning a concept and then, saying like how it doesn't apply in the same way in the sphere of gacha, but yet that sometimes comes into direct conflict with my idea that all art should be criticized equally. That's why I try to be try to act the same way in all of my videos. Like the one time that I failed a driving test and I decided I'm not in the right mind space to record. I try to keep the same attitude towards everything because everything deserves that chance. And I try to not be like, oh, well, this person was, clearly very young, so therefore I'm going to judge this differently or this differently. But I guess my exception is to do with, internet stuff, because of how the internet works. And I guess ultimately the different media, particularly, whether it's, internet versus mainstream, gacha versus Minecraft, they're going to have slightly different things to criticize about them. They're going to have, I guess, different things that have been discovered about them, different, not so different standards, 'cause that's why I was saying against that, but different, modes of achieving the same thing or not being able to achieve the same thing. And on top of that, of course, where they're actually released does matter. If there was a Minecraft TV show, for example, then that'd be a whole different matter. There's a Minecraft movie that's coming out that's, I don't believe, was filmed in Minecraft, from what I've seen of the promotional material, which is very little because I'm not a trailer person, as I mentioned before. But oh my, are people not happy with that one? So yeah, I suppose that's the difference, and my one exception to the judge everything equally rule, or I guess two: the place that it was released and the medium which was used to tell the story. That validates a lot of what I said about the music girl back in the day, in the days where Dylan, for example, offered for free, mind you, to use 3D models in order to keep telling the story of the mutant girl, rather than using gacha or Minecraft. People have just said and yet I turned him down, even though that would probably that might have got a whole different audience. But the mutant girl was designed as a gacha series, and I guess BB is the opposite to me. She said before that she decides the medium she's going to tell a story after she's come up with it, which is also fair. But I, all the time, decide the medium first, or I have an idea of oh hey, that would make a good gacha series, and then I said okay, but how should I do this in a gacha series or something? That's how I go about it. I'm gonna probably sign off right here because we've reached the lake. The car park is nearby, and I have once again done a circle in the shelter without meaning to. Seems like I can get places when I have the right Google Maps stuff. But yeah, so ultimately, keep sending me stuff. I'll keep criticizing it, and I'll keep, whether it's Minecraft, gacha, Star Stable Online, live action, whatever. We'll do a review series for a lot of stuff. Why on earth not? My schedule or otherwise, I'll still find a way to do it. It's pre-recorded or different time. But of course, same place. And for now, please leave a like or dislike because your opinion matters, and subscribe if you haven't already. And on that note, until next time, farewell.